This time on Landmarks, Spider-Man takes on a formidable foe. Witness the loss of a national heritage. Discover the changing face of Moscow. And we take a look at an ancient civilization with new eyes. But first, Buckingham Palace is probably the most famous building in London. It is the official residence of the Queen, and it serves Her Majesty as both a home and an office. The royal standard flies from the roof when the monarch is in residence, and the changing of the guard takes place in the palace forecourt on most days of the year. It is here that the Queen and other members of the royal family receive and entertain guests on ceremonial and official occasions. Buckingham Palace was built for the Duke of Buckingham and Normandy in the early 1700s and was purchased by King George III in 1762, although St James's Palace continued to be the official royal residence until the accession of Queen Victoria. Since 2001, palace officials have opened up parts of the palace gardens to the public. The garden's design dates back to the conversion of Buckingham House into a palace in 1825. Its centrepiece is a 3-acre lake. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth cleared many of the Victorian shrubberies and introduced the flowering trees. The gardens are home to some 30 species of birds.
We have extended the visitor route to take visitors into the garden, a 450-metre walk that will take them along the south side of the lake into the very natural part of the garden that many people may have read about following a survey that was done, which revealed this really was an oasis for wildlife in the heart of London. So visitors will get a wonderful view of the garden front of the palace and walk along the lake where they'll see many wildflowers and many different creatures, birds, ducks in particular. And I think actually be a very nice and peaceful end to their visit to Buckingham Palace.
The palace has a total of 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, and 78 bathrooms. In addition to the wildlife, the gardens are home to 350 different types of wildflowers. In 2004, as part of the celebrations for Queen Elizabeth's 50th anniversary as monarch, the palace played host to a garden party with a difference. More than 500 children from 3 charities of which the Queen is patron were guests. The children arrived courtesy of London's taxi drivers. The Taxi Drivers Charity for Underprivileged Children is one of the many charities in which the Queen takes a special interest. All the fun of the fair was set out in the gardens of Buckingham Palace. The atmosphere continued with the same relaxed, open style that marked the 50th anniversary celebrations. It was a special day for everyone, and for 9-year-old Louisa Harrington, a dream come true. Awaiting a heart transplant, her wish was to meet the Queen, dressed like a princess.
He's a very good driver, though.
The Queen's escort of youthful fans grew as she and the Duke of Edinburgh toured the entertainments. Though the royal couple didn't try out the carousel, they did stay to watch the circus performers before continuing with their tour. A party wouldn't be complete without a cake, and this was a grand creation, a fitting celebration of 50 years on the throne. Garden parties at Buckingham Palace tend to be more formal affairs. The celebrations of the coronation of half a century ago put youth centre stage in this modern Elizabethan era. Coming up, Spider-Man climbs the world's tallest building. Shrouded in fog, This is the world's tallest building. The Taipei 101 is 101 stories tall.
Let's give it up for our star of the day, the most famous climber in the world, Alan Robert. 我们今天这边来宾，我们这次会以我们的法国制作人 The French Spider-Man, Alan Robert. Welcome to Taiwan!
And where a tall building stands, this man, French Spider-Man Alain Robert, will not be far away.
What is your inspiration behind all of this?
Well, there is a message of courage, of being brave, and I guess also overcome your fears and to achieve something. You know, for everybody, we have some task to do in our life, and mine, for now quite long, is to climb mountains, cliffs, and buildings.
Exactly.
This was Christmas Day 2004, 6 days before the official opening. Robert has climbed over 65 buildings around the world, including the Eiffel Tower, New York's Empire State Building, and 8 years later, in 2007, he could not resist climbing the Jinmao in Shanghai to complete his top 4. The 42-year-old Frenchman began his ascent in rainy weather, but unlike many of his previous climbs, required ropes and harnesses. The Taipei 101 is a formidable foe for the climber. It is 508 metres tall. The building is designed to withstand the typhoon winds and earthquake tremors common in this area of the Asia-Pacific. Planners aimed for a structure that could withstand gale winds of 60 metres per second and the strongest earthquakes likely to occur in a 2,500-year cycle. Despite his aids, most of the climb was completed the traditional way, with hands and a good grip. In 2003, the $1.7 billion Taipei 101 surpassed the twin Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur. The gleaming office tower is designed to resemble a bamboo stalk and is equipped with the world's fastest lifts. You can see how Robert got the nickname Spider-Man. The building has been hailed as one of the 7 new wonders of the world and 7 wonders of engineering. It took him 4 hours to do it, but much to the excitement of the commentators, Robert conquered the summit.
There he is! Let's give him a round of applause for his hundreds of fans here at the bottom of Taipei 101, sending him our love and our congratulations to the top.
This was a great moment for both Robert and the builders of the Taipei 101, but soon after it was overtaken as the tallest building in the world when the Burj Dubai completed its 141st floor in July 2007. However, the Taipei 101 has held on to the record for a while longer. The Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat does not officially recognise a structure as a building for record purposes until it is functional. That is, until it is completed and can be occupied. Sometimes events occur that remind us of the fragility of our links to the great civilizations of the past. One such event was the tragic sacking and looting of Iraq's National Museum soon after the start of the Second Iraq War in 2003. Ancient Persia was home to the great Sumerian civilization, who built such legendary wonders as the city of Persepolis. Archaeologists from around the world vowed to help Iraq rebuild its shattered national heritage at a meeting in London.
It is a measure, I think, of the generosity of the international community But everybody in the room this morning, every institution, pledged its full support, its staff, its resources, its materials, and indeed, in some cases, funding.
But the pain of the damage ran deep.
It's not the loss of Iraqi people. It's a great loss for the mankind, because we in that museum, we had material going back to around 500,000 years.
Iraq sits on the land of ancient Mesopotamia and was a cradle of civilization long before the empires of Egypt, Greece or Rome. The museum housed items from ancient Babylon and Nineveh. Assyrian reliefs and 5,000-year-old tablets were samples of some of the earliest known writing.
We found in the galleries of the museum, we found 4 pieces of this. This is a glass cutter. So these are not ours. This means that these people were prepared when they entered the museum to cut the glasses of the showcases we had.
Among the most priceless treasures missing are the vase of Uruk and the harp of Ur, dating back to 2500 BC.
On the day when the looting started, Thursday, we had one of our employees who lives in the premises of the museum went to one of the tanks that were very close to the museum and begged them to come and stand in front of the museum while the looters were outside, just to protect the museum. They told him that they don't have orders for that. And they just stayed away for 3 days. The looters went in. That was on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we went, me and Dr. Jaber, we went to the Marines headquarters on Sunday 13th, and they still did not come Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, until Wednesday.
International curators, appalled by the havoc wreaked by the rampaging looters, drafted a plan to track down looted antiquities. The museum housed 170,000 objects, and a list compiled found at least 14,000 objects missing. It was a team from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organisation, UNESCO, who compiled the database. Since then, Interpol and art auctioneers have been regularly coming across looted items. Sadly, the losses from sites in the south continue. Some say the looting goes on unabated, and the objects are flowing into the market and even appearing now on eBay. Iraq is losing not just a great part of its cultural heritage, but a large piece of its long-term economic future based on the tourist trade. Perhaps ironically, the great city of Persepolis, as seen here in this 3D simulation, was widely represented in the collection. The city was a crowning achievement of ancient civilization, but was itself sacked and burned by Alexander the Great in 330 BC. Who said history never repeats? The tragedy of war is still having a lasting impact. Coming up, the new Moscow. For most of the 20th century, military parades such as this one in Moscow's Red Square were a familiar sight to viewers around the world. They were a regular propaganda exercise during the Soviet era. Now, like the Soviet Union itself, such displays of military might are a distant memory, but they remain a distinctive chapter in the history of one of the best-known gathering places in the world, Red Square. St. Basil's, whose flamboyant domes are frequently confused with those of the nearby Kremlin, is probably Russia's best-known building. It is located at the southeast end of Red Square. Its style is a reminder of the blend of Asian and European cultures which make up the Russian personality.
Demonstration of the people of Moscow.
Remarkably, under the rule of Stalin, there were plans to demolish St. Basil's Cathedral because it was an obstacle for parades and traffic. Fortunately, it was spared, but there were other buildings that did not survive. Now, like much of Moscow, ad hoc construction is threatening to achieve what Hitler and Napoleon could not. Throughout the centre of Moscow, old buildings are being covered with netting or billboards and disappearing soon after, as developers tear down historic buildings with approval from City Hall. In their place appear luxury housing and office space, which can sell for between $20,000 and $50,000 a square metre. I am a native of Moscow. I was born in Moscow. I am an 8th generation Muscovite. I love my city, and to be honest, it is a pity to see how we lose the features of the past. There are many interesting architectural ideas, but sometimes we see just thoughtless destruction of the old.
The 35th anniversary of the Great October Socialist Revolution is celebrated at a gala meeting of the Moscow Soviet held at the Bolshoi Theatre, the Grand Opera House.
Since early 2007, the Bolshoi Theatre has been hidden behind scaffolding and a huge advertisement for travel to Turkey. While state officials have promised that the theatre's facade and interiors will remain unchanged, a lack of public accountability and discussion has made preservationists increasingly sceptical. In the last 15 years, the historic centre of Moscow has seen colossal changes. Of course, the historic centre underwent huge changes under Stalin as well. I mean, Stalin's plan for the reconstruction of Moscow. It was a gigantic plan which changed the city completely. And in general, Moscow is now like a quilt, consisting of different reconstruction plans. One part of it influenced by one idea, a second part by another idea, etc. But right through its history, Red Square, like Moscow and its people, has had a remarkable ability to survive and preserve its culture, no matter what tyranny has been visited upon it. But the patch which is being added to the history of the city by Moscow's mayor Lutskov is too big. It is so big that it covers all other patches. It is not a quilt anymore, it is a domination of one idea. In 1990, the Kremlin and Red Square were among the very first sites in the USSR added to UNESCO's World Heritage List. Red Square will remain Moscow's heart for a long time to come. Sometimes the images we have of the past are not how they actually appeared at the time of their creation. For example, the beauty of ancient Greek sculpture is often synonymous with visions of white marble statues and monuments such as the Parthenon and the Core. Gods in Colour at the National Archaeology Museum of Athens is a display of 23 copies of famous marble statues and sculptures reproduced in their true form, painted in detailed colours of blue, red, green and yellow. The painted replicas of the exhibition, brought from Munich's Glyptotek Museum where they were created, remind visitors that the architecture and sculpture of ancient Greek cities were not white marble, but covered in various and plentiful pigments. Many of the painted replicas are displayed next to their originals, creating an overwhelming contrast to preconceived notions of how ancient Greece looked. Museum director Nicholas Kaltsis said sculpture began in the late 7th century BC and painting along with it, and was phased out in the Greco-Roman period. It was a happy society, a colourful society. They saw all these colours in nature and it affected them. Painting of sculptures and monuments was also very prominent in ancient Egypt, But Koltzis said the initiative of the ancient Greek artists was not drawn from their Egyptian neighbours, but from the colours of nature. The pigments were made from stones and plants, creating the colours of red, blue, green and yellow. Koltzis said there were also probably different tones, either brighter or dimmer. The coloured reality of ancient Greek society is an example of how standards and tastes change from one generation to the next. Some like it because they didn't know and it was a discovery. Some are disappointed. Some have said to me personally, "You have completely ruined the image we had of antiquity." But unfortunately or fortunately, this was reality. Classical Greek society was arguably the high point of ancient civilization. Athens is reputed to be the birthplace of democracy and thousands of concepts and ideas that continue today. Their achievements in the fields of sport, poetry and theatre matched those of their sculptors and visual artists, but it was the sculptors who set the standard. But Athenian society was also based on a strong military tradition. The visual comparison has caused strong reactions from visitors, including shock and disappointment.
I find them beautiful the way they are now, but I was very disappointed seeing all these painted things and the way they probably were. But I don't like them at all.
To the Greeks, however, the painting was considered a work of art, with artists gaining recognition for the sculptures they painted. Evidence that ancient sculpture was painted became prominent with early 19th century archaeological digs, when statues were unearthed with pigments still visible to the naked eye, and further research was later conducted through ultraviolet photography and chemical analysis. The exhibition is based on research made by the University of Munich in the study of polychromy of ancient sculpture. Some replicas of the exhibition are from sculptures of the Temple of Athia on the island of Aegina, whose originals are located in the Glyptothek in Munich and where the exhibition first appeared in 2004. The result is a new window into a civilization that has long fascinated us.